Once upon a time, in a faraway village, lived a beautiful girl named Kachi. Kachi was not like other girls. She loved to play and do things that boys usually did. She loved hunting and swimming. Kachi would follow the boys into the forest with her small bow and arrow, saying, "I can hunt too." She would dive into the river, her laughter echoing as she swam with the boys. Everyone in the village admired her bravery and cleverness. Kachi's parents were proud, but also worried. They often told her, "Kachi, be careful. Not everything is safe." But Kachi would smile and say, "Don't worry, Mama. Don't worry, Papa. I am strong and fearless." Kachi's bravery made her very popular. Children would gather around her, listening to her stories of adventure. "Tell us about the time you saw the wild deer," they would beg. And Kachi would recount, "I was quiet as a mouse, hiding behind a bush. The deer came close, but I didn't move. It didn't see me at all." Even the adults in the village admired her. They would say, "Kachi is so brave. She does things that even boys find hard." Kachi's bravery and cleverness made her a hero in the village, and she loved the attention. As Kachi grew older, her adventurous spirit did not fade. Instead, it became stronger. She loved testing the limits, often saying, "I want to see what happens if I do this." Her parents worried, but they loved her too much to hold her back. "Kachi, just be safe," her father would say. And Kachi would reply, "I will, Papa, I promise." But Kachi's bravery was more than just play. It was a part of who she was. She believed in testing the old ways, challenging traditions. "Why should we be afraid?" she would ask. "I want to know if these stories are true." Kachi's fearless spirit was both admired and a bit feared. People would whisper, "Kachi is brave, but what if she goes too far?" Yet, they couldn't help but love her for her boldness and her joy in life. And so, Kachi's story began, a story of a fearless girl in a village where traditions were strong and the spirits of the land were ever present. Little did she know, her bravery would soon lead her to an adventure unlike any she had ever known. In Kachi's village, there were many traditions and beliefs. One season, the chief priest made an important announcement. "Listen, everyone," he said. "The gods have spoken. No one should go out during the first rain. The gods want a sacrifice, and it is dangerous." The villagers listened and nodded. They knew the chief priest spoke for the gods. "We must stay inside when the first rain comes," they told each other. "It is the will of the gods." But Kachi, with her fearless heart, thought differently. "Why should we be afraid of the rain?" she asked her friends. "It's just water from the sky." Her parents were very worried. "Kachi, promise us you will stay inside," her mother pleaded. "The gods might get angry." Kachi smiled and nodded, but in her heart she had already made up her mind. "I want to see if this is true," she thought. "What if it's just a story to make us scared?" Then one afternoon, dark clouds gathered in the sky. The first rain was coming. The villagers rushed to their homes, locking doors and windows. "Stay inside," they shouted. "The gods are watching." But Kachi, being stubborn, decided to go out. As the rain began to fall, she stepped outside. Her parents called after her, "Kachi, don't go. It's dangerous." But Kachi didn't listen. She walked into the rain, feeling the cool drops on her skin. The rain fell harder and Kachi stood there looking around. She waited for something to happen, but nothing did. She was perfectly fine. "See," she thought, "there are no angry gods." After the rain stopped, Kachi went back inside. Her parents hugged her, relieved but also upset. "Kachi, why did you go out?" her father asked. "You could have been hurt." Kachi shook her head. "Nothing happened, Papa," she said. It's just a superstition. The chief priest was just trying to scare us." The next day, Kachi told everyone what she had done. "I went out in the first rain," she said, "and nothing happened to me." The villagers were shocked. "Kachi is so brave," they whispered. "Maybe she is right. Maybe it is just a story." Some people started to believe Kachi. "Maybe the ghosts don't mind if we go out in the rain," they said. But others were still scared. "Kachi is fearless," they thought, "but we should not take risks." Kachi's actions made her even more famous. They started calling her Kachi the Fearless, but her parents were worried. "Kachi, you shouldn't take the gods or our traditions for granted," they warned. Kachi smiled and nodded, but inside she was determined to keep testing the old ways. She wanted to show everyone that fear was just in their minds. Little did she know, her bravery would soon lead her to face even greater challenges. Kachi loved proving that old stories were just that, stories. One day, she decided to challenge another superstition in the village. It was said that no adult girl should go to the river in the hot afternoon. "The spirits will get angry," the elders warned. "It's dangerous." But Kachi thought, "I don't believe in these old tales. I will show everyone that it's safe." Kachi told her friends about her plan. "I'm going to the river tomorrow afternoon," she said. "Meet me at the village square under the big tree. I'll go to the river and come back without any harm." Her friends were scared. "Kachi, what if something happens to you?" they asked. But Kachi just laughed. "Nothing will happen," she said. "Wait and see." The next day, when the sun was hot and high in the sky, Kachi's friends gathered under the big tree, waiting anxiously. Kachi set off for the river without telling her parents. She walked confidently, her heart full of determination. At the river, the water sparkled under the bright sun. Kachi felt a thrill of excitement. "I'll show them," she thought, and stepped into the cool water. Her friends waited and waited. "She should be back by now," one of them said. They grew more worried as the minutes turned into hours. "Maybe something bad happened," another friend suggested, fear creeping into their voices. As evening approached, Kachi's friends could wait no longer. They rushed to her parents' house and told them what had happened. "Kachi went to the river," they said, "and she hasn't come back." Her father immediately gathered a few men, and they hurried to the river, hearts pounding with worry. But just as they reached the path leading to the river, they saw Kachi walking back, smiling and happy, with Kasali, the popular wine tapper, by her side. "Kachi, where have you been?" her father asked, relief and anger mixing in his voice. "I was at the riverside with Kasali," Kachi replied. "We were talking and I lost track of time." Kasali nodded, smiling at Kachi with admiration. "She is brave," he said. "I have never met anyone like her." Kachi's father sighed with relief, but also warned her sternly. "Kachi, you must not do such things again. Respect our traditions, even if you don't believe in them." Kachi nodded, though inside she still felt sure she was right. The next day, she told her friends, "Nothing happened at the river. It's just a story to scare us." Her friends were amazed and a little envious. "You are so brave, Kachi," they said. "We wish we could be like you." From that day, Kachi and Kasali started spending more time together. Kasali admired her fearless spirit and her boldness. Soon, they fell in love and got married, much to the delight of the village. Kachi's bravery had won her love, and she was happy. But the village elders still warned her to respect the old ways. "Kachi," they said, "there are some things you do not understand." Kachi nodded politely, but she had already made up her mind. She would continue to challenge the old beliefs and show everyone that there was nothing to fear. Little did she know, her greatest test was yet to come. In Kachi's village, there was a special festival every year. It was the Masquerade Festival, a time when the village celebrated with music, dancing, and colorful costumes. The men dressed as masquerades, spirits of the ancestors, and paraded through the streets. But there was one important rule. No woman should see the masquerade. The elders said, "The spirits will be angry if a woman sees the masquerade. It is a sacred tradition." As the festival approached, the village buzzed with excitement. The men prepared their costumes, and the women got ready to stay indoors. "Remember," the elders reminded, "no woman must see the masquerade." Kachi, however, thought differently. "I don't believe in these superstitions," she told Kasali. "I want to see the masquerade." Kasali was worried. "Kachi, this is a serious tradition. Please don't take it lightly." But Kachi was determined. "I will prove that nothing bad will happen," she said. On the day of the festival, the village was filled with the sound of drums and flutes. The men, dressed in their colorful costumes, danced through the streets. The women, as tradition dictated, stayed indoors, listening to the sounds outside. Kachi stayed outside on her porch watching the preparations. Her neighbors called out to her, "Kachi, come inside. The masquerade is coming." But Kachi didn't move. "I will see the masquerade," she said to herself. As the drums grew louder, signaling the approach of the masquerade, Kachi's heart beat faster. She was both excited and nervous. "This is just a tradition," she thought. "I am not afraid." Just as the masquerade was about to pass her house, the men saw her and shouted, "Kachi, go inside. This is not a joke." Kachi quickly stepped inside her house, but she couldn't resist peeking through the window. The masquerade passed by, its colorful costume shimmering in the sunlight. Kachi held her breath, waiting for something to happen, but nothing did. She was perfectly fine. "See," she thought, "there is nothing to fear." The next day, Kachi couldn't wait to share her experience. She gathered the women and said, "I saw the masquerade through my window, and nothing happened to me. It's just a superstition." The villagers were stunned. "You saw the masquerade?" they asked, incredulous. "Yes," Kachi replied confidently, "and I am unharmed." The men who had seen her peeping through the window confirmed her story. "It's true," they said. "Kachi saw the masquerade, and she is fine." Some villagers began to question the old belief. "Maybe it is just a story to scare us," they whispered among themselves. But the elders and the chief priest were not pleased. They approached Kachi with stern faces. "Kachi," they said, "you must respect our traditions. Some things are not meant to be challenged." Kachi nodded, though inside she felt a sense of victory. "I have shown them again," she thought. "There is nothing to fear." Life in the village returned to its routine, but Kachi's actions had caused a stir. People started to wonder about other traditions and superstitions. Was everything they had been taught really true? Kachi and Kasali continued their happy life together, but Kachi's curiosity and bravery always lingered. She was ready to challenge the next superstition, not knowing that her biggest test was yet to come, a test that would bring unexpected consequences. The village watched and waited, wondering what Kachi would do next and what the gods would have to say about her fearless defiance. A month after the Masquerade Festival, life in the village seemed calm. Kachi was now 8 months pregnant, and everyone was excited about the upcoming birth. Kasali was especially happy, often placing his hand on Kachi's belly and feeling the baby kick. "Our child will be as brave as you," he would say with a smile. One sunny afternoon, Kachi felt a sharp pain in her stomach. "It's time," she thought, as the pain grew stronger. She called out to Kasali, "The baby is coming!" Kasali rushed to her side, and soon the news spread throughout the village. "Kachi is in labor," people said, gathering outside her home. The village midwives came quickly to assist, and Kachi's mother was there, holding her hand and praying. Kachi struggled in labor for a whole day. The pains were intense and she cried out in agony. "Hold on, Kachi," her mother said. "You are strong. You can do this." The village was filled with anxious whispers. Why is it taking so long, they wondered. Kasali was outside, pacing back and forth, worry etched on his face. "Please, let them be safe," he prayed. Finally, after hours of labor, the baby was born. But when the midwives looked at the child, they gasped in shock. "What is it?" Kachi asked weakly, trying to see. The midwives hesitated, their faces pale. "Kachi, you have given birth to a masquerade," they whispered, their voices trembling. Kachi couldn't believe her eyes. The baby she held was not a normal child, but a masquerade, just like the one she had seen during the festival. Its tiny body was wrapped in colorful, shimmering fabric, and its face was covered with a small, intricately designed mask. Kachi's heart sank. "No," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "Why is this happening?" Kasali rushed in, and when he saw the masquerade baby, he was speechless. "This is because you challenged the gods," he said softly, his eyes filled with sorrow. "You looked at the masquerade and now our child is a masquerade." The room was filled with a stunned silence. No one had ever seen anything like this before. Kachi held the tiny masquerade baby, tears streaming down her face. The midwives and her mother stood frozen, unable to comprehend what had just happened. Kasali, still in shock, looked at Kachi with a mix of sorrow and anger. "Kachi, this is because you didn't respect our traditions," he said quietly. "You always thought everything was just a story." Kachi's heart broke even more at Kasali's words. She sobbed, "I'm so sorry. I didn't think this would happen." The few people in the room exchanged worried glances. The chief priest, standing by the doorway, shook his head slowly. "This is a sign from the gods," he said. "The spirits are not to be taken lightly." Kachi, desperate and scared, looked at the people around her. "Please," she begged, "let's keep this a secret. Tell the villagers I lost the baby. I can't let everyone know." The midwives and her mother hesitated, but the chief priest spoke firmly. "Kachi, the gods have already spoken to us. The villagers will know." Kachi's mother, tears in her eyes, pleaded with the chief priest. "Is there no other way? Can't we protect her from this fate?" The chief priest sighed deeply. "The gods have made their will known. We cannot hide this. It would bring even greater misfortune upon us all." Outside, the villagers were waiting anxiously for news. When the chief priest and the others stepped out, their faces told the story before any words were spoken. "What happened?" the villagers asked, crowding around. The chief priest raised his hand for silence. "Kachi has given birth to a masquerade," he announced. Gasps and murmurs spread through the crowd. "This is a consequence of her actions, her defiance of our traditions." Kachi, still inside, heard the reactions of the villagers. She felt her world crumbling. Kasali held her hand, his face pale. "We will get through this," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. The day after Kachi gave birth to the masquerade, the village elders gathered outside her home. Led by the chief priest, they wore solemn expressions, knowing they had a difficult decision to make. The gods had already informed them of the masquerade birth, and now they had to act. The chief priest knocked on the door, and Kasali opened it, his face etched with worry. "The elders are here to speak with Kachi," the chief priest said. Kasali nodded and stepped aside, allowing the elders to enter. Kachi sat in the corner, cradling her masquerade baby, her eyes red from crying. She looked up as the elders approached, her heart pounding with fear and sorrow. The chief priest stepped forward, his voice firm but filled with a touch of sadness. Kachi, he began, you have defied our traditions and the will of the gods. From a young age, you have challenged our beliefs, thinking them mere superstitions. Kachi's father stood beside her, holding her hand, while her father stood behind, his face stern but pained. The room was silent except for the soft, rhythmic breathing of the masquerade baby. You have crossed a line, continued the chief priest. The gods have shown their displeasure through the birth of your child. This is not a normal child, but a masquerade, a spirit, and such a being cannot live among us. Tears streamed down Kachi's face. I am sorry, she whispered, her voice trembling. I didn't mean for this to happen. The elders shook their heads, their faces a mixture of disappointment and sorrow. It is too late for apologies, one elder said. The gods have spoken, and we must heed their warning. The chief priest took a deep breath. Kachi, you must leave the village. You will go into the thick forest and live there, away from everyone. This is the only way to restore balance and peace. Kasali and Kachi's parents stood before the elders, their faces filled with desperation. Please reconsider, Kasali begged. Kachi didn't mean to defy the gods. She only wanted to understand. Kachi's mother, tears streaming down her face, added, She is our daughter. Show her mercy. Let her stay with us. We will take responsibility for her actions. The elders, their expressions somber, shook their heads. The decision is final, the chief priest said. The gods have spoken, and we cannot go against their will. Kachi must leave the village. Kachi, standing a little distance away, listened to the pleas of her loved ones, her heart heavy with sorrow. She knew the decision would not change. The gods had made their will known, and the village had to follow. With a deep sigh, Kachi began to pack her belongings. She took only what she needed, knowing she would have to travel light in the thick forest. Her hands trembled as she folded her clothes and placed them in a small bag. Each item she packed felt like a piece of her old life slipping away. Kasali entered the room and saw Kachi preparing to leave. His eyes filled with tears. I don't want you to go, he said softly, his voice breaking. I wish there was another way. Kachi looked at Kasali, her own eyes brimming with tears. I know, she whispered, but this is the only way. I must go. Kasali hugged her tightly, not wanting to let go. I will miss you every day, he said. Take care of yourself and our child. Kachi nodded, holding back her sobs. I will miss you too, Kasali. Please, be strong. As Kachi finished packing, her parents came to say goodbye. Her father placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. You are strong, Kachi, he said. Remember that. We will always love you. Kachi's mother embraced her, her tears soaking Kachi's shoulder. My brave girl, she said. I will pray for you every day. Be safe. Kachi, holding her masquerade baby, took a deep breath and stepped outside. The village was silent, the villagers watching, with a mix of sorrow and respect. They understood the gravity of the situation, but their hearts ached for Kachi and her family. With her bag on her shoulder and her baby in her arms, Kachi walked towards the edge of the village. Kasali walked beside her, holding her hand until the very last moment. I love you, he whispered one last time. I love you too, Kachi replied, her voice trembling. Goodbye, Kasali. As Kachi crossed the boundary of the village and entered the thick forest, she felt a profound sense of loss. The trees closed around her, their shadows casting a cool darkness on the path ahead. She was leaving behind everything she had ever known, venturing into the unknown with only her courage and her child. The villagers watched until Kachi was out of sight, their hearts heavy with the weight of farewell. The elders, standing solemnly, knew they had done what was necessary, but it did not lessen the sadness of the moment. Kachi walked deeper into the thick forest, her heart heavy with the burden of her actions. The trees were tall and dense, their branches creating a canopy that let in only slivers of sunlight. The air was cool and filled with the sounds of rustling leaves and distant animal calls. Kachi held her masquerade baby close, feeling both fear and determination. Days turned into weeks as Kachi wandered through the forest, searching for a place to call home. She found a small clearing by a stream where the water was clear and fresh. "This will be our home," she whispered to her baby, who gazed at her with its tiny masked face. Kachi built a small shelter using branches and leaves. It was simple, but it provided protection from the elements. She gathered berries, fruits, and roots for food, learning to survive in the wild. Each day was a struggle, but Kachi's determination kept her going. She often thought of Kasali and her family, their faces giving her the strength to endure. One evening, as she sat by the stream, Kachi reflected on her life and the choices that had led her to this point. "I was so sure of myself," she murmured. "I thought I knew better than the traditions, but now I see that some things are beyond our understanding." As the seasons changed and years passed, Kachi lived out her days in the thick forest. She raised her masquerade child with love and care, finding solace in the quiet beauty of nature. The forest became her home, and she learned to live in harmony with it, respecting the spirits and traditions she once defied. Back in the village, Kachi's story became a powerful legend. Elders would gather the children and tell them about the fearless girl who challenged the gods. "Listen well," they would say. "This is the story of Kachi, who thought she knew better than our traditions." The children listened with wide eyes as the elders recounted Kachi's adventures and the consequences of her disbelief. "She did not believe in the power of the gods," the elders would say, "and she paid a great price." The villagers learned from Kachi's story. They understood that their traditions and beliefs were not just old tales, but important teachings that connected them to their ancestors and the spirits of the land. "Respect our ways," the elders would remind, "for they guide us and protect us." Kachi's tale became a cautionary story passed down through generations. Parents told their children, "Remember Kachi, do not take our traditions lightly. Not everything is a superstition." The moral of Kachi's story was clear. Never take the tradition of the land as a joke. Not everything is a superstition. If you trespass, you might end up with terrible consequences. Kachi's life was a testament to this truth, a reminder to honor and respect the ways of their ancestors. As the stars twinkled in the night sky, Kachi felt a sense of fulfillment. She had learned her lesson and passed it on to her village. Her story would live on, a beacon of wisdom for generations to come. And so, Kachi's tale became a cherished part of the village's heritage, a story of bravery, consequences, and the enduring power of tradition. The villagers never forgot the lessons of Kachi's life, honoring their culture with respect and understanding, knowing that some things were not meant to be challenged. I hope you enjoyed the tale. If so, please like the video, share it with your family and friends, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell for more enchanting tales like this one. Goodbye.